part of growing up is realizing that all your favorite kid shows were actually horrifying. From the unbelievable crimes committed by SpongeBob SquarePants to the grim origins of Cat Dog, here are some Nickelodeon theories that'll ruin your childhood. Scary godparents. Everyone knows that the fairies of Fairly Odd Parents exist to make kids happy. They're assigned to sad children to grant their every wish. Aw, so wholesome. Or so I thought. You see, I've been doing some thinking. Fairy World's magical society literally cannot function without sad children. We see in the musical special School's Out that if all the kids on Earth were happy, fairies wouldn't be able to grant wishes. The magic they would have used doesn't just disappear though, it builds up inside of them, and if left unchecked ultimately makes them explode. So it's in the interest of their survival for kids to be sad so they can expel all that dangerous magical energy on wishes. See where I'm going with this? The fairies make the children of Earth miserable on purpose. But how? Well, fairies wipe the memories of kids when they grow up or no longer need them. It's supposedly done to ensure that adults don't learn about magic, but the theory goes that that's just a cover-up. The real reason is far more nefarious. See, although adults forget about their fairy godparents, they don't forget they had happy childhoods. They just don't remember why. That means that even if they had neglectful parents like Timmy's, they'll remember being happy. Because of this, they're doomed to repeat the same mistakes as their parents, so their own kids become sad and need fairy godparents. And the cycle continues. There's evidence of this too. In the special Channel Chasers, Timmy is shown as a father and he's just as bad as his own parents.
I'm here to babysit the little targets. I mean, the precious gifts from above. Ha 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 ha.
But Whoops, gotta go. I'm gonna be late. Bye, Tammy! Bye, Tommy!
So to summarize, the fairies are a race of parasites feeding off the despair of humanity for their own benefit. Jeez, with resumes like that, they should go into politics. Puff's past. Ah, Mrs. Puff, SpongeBob's much aggrieved driving instructor. I always felt sorry for her, having to put up with the yellow fellow's shenanigans all the time. That is, until I made some startling discoveries. The so-called Mrs. Puff is a lot less innocent than she first appears. In the episode No Free Rides, Puff contemplates leaving Bikini Bottom, changing her name, and starting a brand new boating school. But then she dismisses the idea, saying,
"Not again."
Not again? Well, that's suspicious. She also remarks in the episode Doing Time that losing her sanity isn't a road she wants to go down again.
Oh, that's a road we don't want to go down again.
There's that word again. Right. Just how many times has she lost her mind and started a new life? And in another episode, we see inside Mrs. Puff's house, revealing that she's been hoarding other characters' possessions, including SpongeBob's diary. What? Just when you think it can't get any fishier, in that same episode, she appears on the front of a newspaper with the damning headline, "Deranged Boat Teacher Makes Getaway." Oh boy. Supposedly, she distracted authorities with balloon animals while making her escape. Now watch this clip from No Free Rides.
I hope I still remember how to do this. Yeah.
I don't think there's any denying it. Mrs. Puff is actually an insane, kleptomaniacal criminal from out of town, living under a fake identity to avoid the law. Man, you think you know somebody. I can neither confirm nor deny whether I'm hiding a criminal past of my own, but I assure you my future will be filled with awesome videos like this one. If you want to be there when they drop, why not like and subscribe? That way you'll never miss out again. All finished? Awesome. Let's get back to the theories. Angelica's Angels. Any discussion about Nickelodeon theories would be incomplete without bringing up the granddaddy of them all. I'm just gonna say it, the babies on the Rugrats are all figments of Angelica's imagination. In reality, they're all dead. I know, just hear me out. You know how Stu, Tommy, and Dill's dad is always spending countless hours making toys in the basement? Well, according to this popular theory, it's not actually his job, it's a coping mechanism. Supposedly, Tommy didn't survive his birth, leaving a distraught Stu to slave away making toys for the son he never had. Yikes. And what about the other Rugrats? Well, we already know Chucky's mom passed away at some point prior to the story, but what if Chucky went alongside her in, say, a car crash or something? That tragedy would certainly explain why his dad Chaz is the nervous wreck we see in the show. As for twins Phil and Lil, the DeVilles were expecting but decided to terminate their pregnancy. As Angelica never knew the gender of the child to be, she imagined both outcomes. Kimmy is explained a little differently. She is alive, but Angelica has never actually met her. Her mother, Kiera, lost custody of her. When she married Chaz and moved to the US, Angelica heard the stories and added Kimmy to the group. Like this, the lonely girl created the friends she never had. Yikes. But what about Dill? Well, Dill is the only real baby in the cast. He's the only one that actually acts like one and so can't talk to Angelica. Ah, pretty convincing, right? Well, I don't buy it. I know it's a popular theory, but it sounds like an almighty stretch to me. Thankfully, co-creator Arlene Klasky agrees. She outright debunked the theory in 2016. Case closed. Childhood saved. Phew. Don't get too comfortable, though. That's the last time you'll hear those words today. Drake and Josh and everyone. Nick's live-action sitcoms were game-changing when they started rolling out in the 90s, but Naughty's hit Drake and Josh was arguably the most popular. It follows the titular stepbrothers as they get up to all kinds of wacky hijinks. So far, so standard. But this next theory claims it stands out from Nick's other sitcoms, or Nickcoms, in one very significant way. It's a show within a show. See, all the Nickcoms after D&J are in the same universe. We know this because they regularly cross over with each other. Drake and Josh, though, we see characters in other shows like iCarly watching episodes of it. So this is hardly a theory at all. It's a fact. Drake and Josh is a Nickcom within a Nickcom. But it goes deeper. In one iCarly episode, Drake and Josh side characters Craig and Eric make a flesh and blood appearance. But if they're meant to be fictional characters in the greater Nickverse, how does that make any sense? Well, get this. Drake and Josh is not fictional. It's a reality show with a Truman Show-esque twist. The titular brothers are the stars with no idea the extent to which their lives are on show to the world. Ever wondered how their sister Megan ends up with all those crazy gadgets and gizmos? The showrunners are dropping them to her to spice things up. Now, the duo are aware they're in a show, seeing as they speak to the audience at the start of each episode, but the theory goes they have no idea that the cameras keep rolling to capture all their misfortune. That's gotta be illegal, right? The Krabby Patty Secret Formula. Admit it, ever since first watching SpongeBob SquarePants, you've wanted to know what goes into Krabby Patties to make them just so darn addictive. Unfortunately, I figured it out. And I really wish I hadn't. Hear me out. The key ingredient in a burger like the Krabby Patty is meat, right? So where does Mr. Krabs get it? Buckle up. Most residents of Bikini Bottom are intelligent anthropomorphic sea creatures. The only other creatures we see are small fry like sea snails, worms, and clams, which are depicted as subservient pets. But if the only possible source of meat are citizens and pets, that doesn't look great for old Mr. Krabs. Best case scenario, he's been cooking the Bikini Bottom equivalent of cats and dogs and grinding them up into patties. Jeez. Will Gary be next then? This sordid reality has been hidden in plain sight the whole time too. Think about it. The Krusty Krab's chief competition is the chum bucket. Chum is literally ground up fish, used by fishermen to attract larger fish. The larger fish being in this case SpongeBob and Co. Sure, nobody likes the chum bucket, but that's probably just because it doesn't sugarcoat reality like Mr. Krabs' place does. And that's the nice answer. The even darker alternative is that Bikini Bottomites themselves are rounded up, butchered, and turned into chum before being sold in patties and cannibalized. No matter which way you look at it, it's super messed up. Of course, there is one other possibility, that the burgers are all plant-based. All the Bikini Bottomites could just be chowing down on veggie burgers. Who knows? Maybe it's the meat eater in me, but I can't picture anybody going as crazy as they do over the vegetarian option. Stew Prize. Now, I know Rugrats is set in the 90s and they didn't live in an economic hellscape back then, but the Pickles family did rather well for themselves, didn't they? A big house and enough income to support the whole family? That said, Stu is depicted as the main breadwinner, yet doesn't hold a steady job, relying instead on erratically selling whatever invention he comes up with next. In the first movie, his brother points out that not only does he have no insurance, but no savings either. What gives? How have the Pickles kept afloat? I'll tell you how. Stu has a dark secret. Know how he's an avid inventor? Well, when he's down in the basement, he's not making innocent toys. He actually creates high-tech weaponry and sells it to criminal gangs, foreign governments, and black market agents. Think about it. The Reptar wagon, supposedly the definitive kid's toy, is for some reason equipped with flamethrowers? I wouldn't let a kid anywhere near that thing. Hell, he even built a giant mecha Reptar that went on a rampage in Paris. Let's be honest, Stu doesn't sell toys. That's just a cover story. He sells deadly weapons. How many lives have been lost because of his infernal works? How many families shattered? These are the questions that keep me up at night. SpongeBob's body count. We've already established that the residents of Bikini Bottom are no stranger to dastardly deeds, but surely SpongeBob himself is as innocent as they come? Wrong. He's the worst of the lot. And I'm not just theorizing. Check this out.
I'm going to the moon, SpongeBob.
The moon! Can I go?
No way, SpongeBob. Especially after your little mishap with my whirlybird.
Oh my God. There are well over 50 gravestones here, all because of SpongeBob. Just for some context, notorious monster John Wayne Gacy only offed 33 people in 6 years. SpongeBob beat him in a single whirlybird incident, something he clearly shows no remorse for. What exactly happened? We may never know, and that's not all. In another episode, Bubble Buddy, SpongeBob left a fish buried near a pool of brine on the pretense that he could experience high tide. The Bubble Buddy he'd created was supposed to dig him out and stop him from drowning, but it didn't. SpongeBob literally left him to die. And how many civilians has everyone's favorite sponge ran over while boating recklessly? Not to mention that time he utterly decimated Bubbletown.
My bubble leg!
His body count must be well over 100 by now. I think it's safe to say that this sponge is not only the most heinous criminal in Bikini Bottom, he's one of the deadliest in the world. Alone in the World. Cat Dog is a weird show even by Nickelodeon standards. It follows the titular character or characters of cat and dog, who are fused together into one freaky hybrid animal. Only the show never explains where the hell they came from, nor how they were joined, which has led to some wild theories. Some people say they're the work of a mad scientist conducting inhumane experiments in a hidden laboratory, but I'm here to offer a less cliche theory. Ever noticed how rundown and decrepit the city of Nuremberg where Cat Dog is set is? And isn't it odd that it's entirely populated by strange humanoid animals? Well, that's because the show is set after a nuclear apocalypse. The animals of Nuremberg were mutated by the fallout, causing them to gain incredible intelligence and morph into new strange forms. Cat Dog was originally a separate cat and dog before they became fused together by the radiation and began a joint life of existential suffering. And there would be a lot of suffering. Now one Gestalt abomination, Cat Dog's reproductive and waste disposal organs were eradicated. So yes, they're forced to poop out of each other's mouths. No wonder Cat's always so grumpy. Hey Helga. Hey Arnold is a classic Nicktoon that follows the adventures of the titular Arnold as he navigates life in the big city. At least that's what the showrunners would have you believe. Let's look at another character, Helga. Helga is a supporting character that routinely bullies Arnold, though that's only to cover up her feelings for him. Her home life is hell with an alcoholic mother and a workaholic father. They shower love and praise on Helga's older sister, Olga, while not sparing Helga a second thought. They don't even care enough to remember to pack her lunch at times. Her whole life is a huge drama. In fact, it's the central drama. That's right, Hey Arnold isn't about Arnold at all. It's a show about Helga. It's her struggles the viewer follows most often. She monologues almost every episode, and she's undoubtedly the driving force behind the story. I mean, come on. Who is it that repeatedly says, "Hey Arnold," in the opening credits? That's right, Helga. The title is a quote from our real protagonist. Everything may superficially point to Arnold being the main character, but that's only because, from Helga's perspective, he's the most important person in the world. The only person to ever show her true kindness and pay her real attention. Have you been cutting onions in here or something? Nasty karate. Right, I'm sorry in advance for this one. Okay, here we go. In the SpongeBob episode Karate Chopper, SpongeBob and Sandy find themselves addicted to doing karate together. Whether it's at work, at home, in public, they just can't get enough. It gets so bad that SpongeBob can barely get any work done at the Krusty Krab. All he can think about is karate with Sandy. If you hadn't guessed by now, this theory states that karate doesn't have anything to do with the episode at all. It's really about getting jiggy with it.
Stop! For a second, that sounded like
Karate?
right now.
They try their best to resist, but after watching each other slice a big sausage, they can no longer hold back and end up karateing all over the place, leading to this scene.
Do you think Mr. Krabs ever does karate?
Was that pillow talk? Followed by the duo being caught in a compromising position? Come on, Nick! At least try to be subtle. But if you're still not convinced, what does SpongeBob do when he comes home to find Sandy there ready to surprise him with karate?
Just a second. Safety first!
Safety first? What could that be an allegory for? Right, I'm done. The things I do for you sick, sick people. Timmy Turner's miserable life. So we know that Timmy Turner is a sad kid, neglected by his parents, belittled by his babysitter, bullied at school. Not fun. It's precisely why he's the perfect candidate for fairy godparents. You know, his magic friends he uses every day to make his sad life more bearable. Sound like anything else? Cosmo and Wanda are metaphors for antidepressants. Whenever things get too tough for Timmy to deal with, he reaches for them. In universe, kids are supposed to lose their fairies when they turn 13, but Timmy is shown to somehow keep his. Could this mean his mental health struggles continue well into adulthood? Man. The fairies usually only ever help Timmy, providing him with some much-needed solace. But there's one exception. If Timmy abuses their power by using them too much, dangerous side effects arise, just like antidepressants, implying poor Timmy might take more than the recommended dose when he's in a particularly bad place. But what of his villainous teacher, Mr. Crocker? He's always going after Timmy's fairies. Is he actually a fellow addict desperate for his fix? That or a therapist attempting to curb Timmy's medication use? After all, Timmy's wishes almost always go wrong. Does that mean he's constantly dosing his medication too high and suffering the ill effects? I'm not sure about this one. What about you guys? Let me know down in those comments. Retroville Revenants. You ever stop and wonder what happened to the worlds of your favorite TV show after the series ended? I do. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about Jimmy Neutron. You know, the boy genius with an insane IQ of 210? Someone with his credentials doesn't end up at McDonald's. No, what if he was enlisted to work for the US military? There, he creates unbelievable weapons, none like we've ever seen before. And when a colossal war breaks out, his high-tech weaponry inadvertently leads to the planet's near destruction. It doesn't end there, though. Bear with me on this. Over time, the US is rebuilt with new buildings rising up over the ruins of the past, but not all could be hidden. The nuclear-scorched ozone layer has left a gloomy purple shade. Meanwhile, Jimmy's now very elderly teacher, Miss Fowl, struggles to deal with the loss of her husband in the war and becomes a cynical, depressed woman. To escape her loss, she decides to use her maiden name, Bitters. See where I'm going with this now? And in the cold vacuum of space, the incredible neutron tech that was used in the conflict alerts the evil Urkin Empire to the Earth's existence. Yep, the world of Jimmy Neutron becomes the one we see in Invader Zim. With the Earth barely recovered from global war, the Urkins see it as worthless, so it's the perfect place to ditch Zim, their worst invader. There he encounters Miss Bitters, but she's actually Miss Fowl, Jimmy's old teacher. And there's one other factor that links the two shows: Baby Eddie. Eddie is a Jimmy Neutron villain, a super intelligent evil baby, but according to this theory, he's not a baby at all. He's actually a member of the alien race, the Nargok, from Invader Zim. See, the Nargok are super intelligent evil aliens that look like human babies. Voila, it all makes sense. Kinda. What's next? Does iCarly turn into the last airbender? Actually, write that one down. A lonely only child. Oh boy, another Rugrats theory about Angelica. We can all agree that she's spoiled rotten, right? But why is that? Well, I think I have an answer, and it's not very fun. What if Drew and Charlotte have fertility issues? After unsuccessfully trying for a baby for so long, they finally get lucky with Angelica, so they shower her with affection. We know from the episode Angelica's Worst Nightmare that her parents are ecstatic when Charlotte's pregnancy test comes back positive. This implies that they want more children and have likely been trying for a while. Then at the end of the episode, they reveal that for an unspecified reason, Charlotte isn't pregnant after all. What if this was a miscarriage? And what if it was one of many that the pair had suffered? It would explain why Drew is more well off than his brother Stu, but always seems somewhat jealous of him. Because Stu and Dee Dee never had any problems conceiving. In fact, they have 2 kids. We see in the sequel series All Grown Up that Angelica is still an only child around a decade later and is just as spoiled as ever. I think what gives this theory such teeth is how realistic it is. The showrunners may have wanted to provide commentary on the touchy subject in a time when it was hardly discussed. If so, I applaud them. Fat Crab and Little Bob. The cast of SpongeBob is composed of a whole host of nautical freaks. You'd be forgiven for dismissing their unfauna-like intelligence as standard cartoon fare. But the real reason is rooted in horror. Horror and reality. You see, Bikini Bottom seems to be based on Bikini Atoll, a real coral reef in the Marshall Islands. From 1946 to 58, this area was used by the United States as a testing ground for nuclear weapons. Our theory posits that after the test, the native wildlife became severely mutated. The ocean in the atoll was irradiated, exposing regular fish, squid, and, sea sponges to said radiation. What eventually evolved from the neo-primordial ooze was something new, something different, something square. Yep, SpongeBob and the rest of the Bikini Bottomites are all nuclear abominations. Need more evidence? Just take a look at Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, 2 humans that live in the deep sea city. 2 humans, that is, that can breathe underwater and are the same size as the locals. I submit to you that this dynamic duo were Navy divers sent down to take samples after the tests who ended up being irreversibly mutated. Maybe they have gills now, though I don't want to know where. This could also explain the crazy technology they possess. It's abandoned military equipment they salvaged. Still not convinced? Well, hold your seahorses. SpongeBob routinely uses cutaways for comedic effect, and which one do the creators choose to use here? That clip is a recording of one of the Bikini Atoll nuclear tests. Okay, I'm convinced. Guess you could say this theory is the bomb. Sorry, I'll see myself out. Dastardly Doug. Doug is an absolute classic. The cartoon follows the titular Doug Funny as he navigates school life alongside a colorful cast of characters. And I mean that literally. Most supporting characters are a vibrant hue, with the most notable exceptions being Doug and his love interest Patty. But that's where the nasty part comes in. Some people believe that Doug, and by extension the creative team behind him, are racists. Whoa. I know, but think about it. Of all the people around Doug, who does he have eyes for? One of the only other white characters in his class. Is it possible the show was pushing a supremacist message? After all, the other non-white characters are relegated to the background. Now, sure, this theory would require those characters to be allegories for real-world racial groups, but is that really so unlikely? TV has been used as a medium to push all kinds of messages for decades. Luckily for everyone, though, the whole debacle was apparently unintentional. Creator of Doug, Jim Jenkins, came out and said he actually wanted to bypass the issue of race entirely, hence portraying the cast in the now iconic array of bright colors. Evidently, this attempt didn't work, but was Jim telling the truth or making up porkies to save face? I'm inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt here, but what do you reckon? Let me know down in those comments below. Dirty Dan. It's pretty well established that unfortunately show business isn't always as magical as it seems. And Nickelodeon is no exception, and I couldn't make a video on the topic without addressing that. Child actors on many of their Nickcoms have shared some harrowing stories about working on set. For years, the theories at the center of this maelstrom of controversy all led back to Dan Schneider, one of the lead Nickelodeon creators. Dan was supposedly responsible for emotionally abusing the child stars he worked with. According to them, he'd regularly launch into shouting and screaming fits as he berated the kids for flubbing lines or even just for feeling uncomfortable with what he asked them to do. Indeed, it's all but proven that Dan Schneider made life hell for many of his child actors. Infamously, Amanda Bynes, Alexa Nicholas, and Jeanette McCurdy are all alleged to have suffered at his hands. The latter two have both directly and indirectly outright accused the guy of misconduct. Jeanette alluded to an abusive creator in her memoir, and both she and Alexa have made various claims online about Schneider.
Hey, Dan Schneider. I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine? Vine. Look what you've done to me.
Man, that's dark. Seems like she's covering up her pain with humor. Now, at the end of the day, these are all just allegations for now, but they're absolutely convincing ones. Sorry to end things on such a foul note. And with that, I've most certainly had my fill of theories for one day. Which of these did you find the most convincing? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.